Good evening, race fans, and welcome to race number 2 of the 2022 VRL Cup Series. We are here today for the Sebring 200. My name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action today in 1080p 60 frames a second. Folks, we are here at Sebring International Raceway, and I gotta say, I have been anxiously waiting for the start of this race. This is going to be quite exciting, I do have to say so myself, and I just noticed a typo error on our header here, but anyhow, drivers are starting their qualifying for today, and the first of our drivers making their way out onto the track, Howie Briss, Colby Kersey, Cody Miller, just to name a few drivers right off the start. Marcus Regal in the chat. Howdy, sir. Thank you for joining us here today, and welcome to the Sebring 200. Glad you could join us here tonight for some Monday night racing here with Velocity Racing League as we kick off our qualifying again. This is Sebring. I fully expect a lot of interesting things to happen here today, especially in these ARCAs. This is going to be one of those races where control is going to be absolutely... Look at that. You can see that right rear. Oh, man, all the way up off the ground as he worked his way through that turn there. Yeah, and again, this is going to be one of those tracks where control is going to be crucial. How aggressive you are on the throttle, or maybe how not aggressive you are on the throttle, and so on and so forth. Oh, this is going to be extremely challenging, and just looking at how these cars are already working their way around this track, and as well, we can see the tires coming off the ground there. Look at that. Oh, so Howie Briss in the 97 machine going to be starting his first time lap, I believe, here quite shortly. As we look now with Colby Kersey in the 94 here as well. Let's see if Colby is having some of the same woes that the 97 was having here just a moment ago as he works his way through that final turn, the Sunset Bend, turn 17, and down the front stretch. And that's going to start his first qualifying lap here for today at Sebring International. And now there's 10 minutes that drivers have to complete a full qualifying lap here. Look at that. Colby Kersey coming out of one, almost getting into the grass there, but keeps it together as he works his way now through turns 3 and 4. And coming into the big bend here as well. So again, this track especially has a lot of interesting sections that drivers here are, I don't want to say are going to struggle with, but are definitely going to be fighting a car like this. Here on a track that is not exactly built for cars that are, well, inherently designed to turn left on an oval course. So these guys definitely going to be putting this ARCA through its paces, putting all their cars through their paces here today at Sebring, and we're going to see how everyone stacks up and where everyone finds themselves at the end of the race. And hopefully we see some great green flag racing from these guys, and we'll kind of see as well how pace kind of differs between all of our drivers here. Again, this is going to be a track where consistency and being able to control your car is going to be absolutely crucial. This is going to be a very difficult track for this car, and it already seems like a lot of guys, even in practice I was watching before we went live here, some drivers haven't really trying to push their limits, trying to extend the track limits as much as they can, and do what they possibly can to ultimately get themselves as best of a time as they can. That's really what you want to try and do. But again, getting that that fast lap, the fastest lap of the session, isn't exactly always going to play in your favor if you're not confident in your line work. That paint job, though, in the chat, yeah, I would have to agree. That is quite the the interesting paint scheme that I believe, I can't even remember what number that was though, but it looks like some of our drivers here have completed their first time lapse here as well, as indicated on our timing tower here. You can see their last time as they work their way around the track for a second time here before qualifying ends. There's just under 5 minutes left to go, and right now Aaron Smith in the 70 machine is going to be the driver at the top of this current qualifying session with a 209.99, and just behind him Howie Briss with a 211.87, and Brett Guzik going to be in third in that 04 machine, taking a 212.01 for his official time here at Sebring International. And gotta say, it seems a little quiet down there on track right now, but given how far away kind of these cars are from in respect to the camera itself, it definitely sounds like it's a little less noisy down there on track. But anyhow, I've said that too many times already. You guys are gonna have to stop me and prevent me from saying that anymore. But looks like Aaron Smith having a little bit of struggle there, seemed like, for a second. But as we look with James Miller in the 09 machine, fourth place currently with a 212.39 as his official time right now. He's just about 3/4 of the way through his second time. Look at that. Gets it sideways. Is he going to recover it? Does not look like it. At least not onto the track itself. He's going to have to go outside of track limits and bring it back in. And again, this is just one of those things that we're going to see. I have a feeling we're going to see quite a lot of here today. So we're going to keep our eyes on it, see how that affects drivers as we get closer to wrapping up our qualifying and we get ready for the green flag. As we look at Tony Hilbrands in the 92 machine, who's found himself in the 6th place spot currently as far as qualifying goes, and right now about 1/4 of a way through his second qualifying lap here. And you can see, I'm not sure if this is an issue on my end, that I'm just kind of seeing things, but those tires are absolutely, yeah, they are almost a foot off the ground, it looks like, in some turns. I'm almost wondering to myself if that's just a glitch that we're seeing on our end in iRacing, or whatever the case may be. But it definitely seems like these guys are getting at least one tire airborne in a lot of these very tight chicanes that they're having to manage their way through. But nonetheless, still a lot of great driving from a car that naturally is not designed to race on a track like this. Again, these cars are designed for oval racing. They're not exactly intended to go on a full-blown road course, but this is iRacing. You can do practically whatever you want. If you want to go throw a Formula 1 car on a rallycross track, you can do that. And this is just one of the things that we are exploring here in the iRacing community, doing fun shenanigans like this. And this is our first season here with Velocity Racing League, so I'm sure that these guys are quite used to these things here already. But for us here in the booth and at Team Goon Squad, we thoroughly enjoy such endeavors. So we are glad to be here, glad to be commentating, calling these races for the folks at Velocity Racing League, and I hope everyone is enjoying what they have seen and heard here thus far, as Tony Hilbrands comes across the line to complete his second qualifying lap, and that's going to actually put him down into 7th place, and that is going to give James Miller in the 09 the 6th place spot that Tony Hilbrands just found himself in a few moments ago. And it looks like here Other than 2 drivers, practically everyone has made their way around the track at least twice. So qualifying is going to be completed here in just a moment as James Koulibaly in the 12 machine comes across the line. And that is going to complete our qualifying session for today. And our starting grid is here. Actually, it is not here. Not quite yet. We have a quick warm-up that we are going to do here for just a few moments while drivers get themselves sorted out and ready to go for our first green flag run here, folks. And we will take a short commercial break. We will be right back with the action. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We will be back for more iRacing here on Team Goon Squad.
Driver Carrington gets dumped by Benami. The leaders are winding up here. Daytona's a big one.
All right, folks, welcome back, and we have our starting grid ready for us here today. And starting in first place, Aaron Smith in the 70 machine. In first, Nick Nickerson in the 2 machine, going to be starting in second place. That is a odd coincidence there, Nick. Colby Kersey in the 94, going to be in third, with Howie Briss in the 97 in your second row. Brett Guzik, excuse me, I keep getting those 2 names mixed up. In the 04, going to be in 5th place. James Miller in the 09, going to be in 6th, rounding out your third row. Tony Hillbrands in the 92 in 7th place. Jaden Hopp in the 81, going to be in 8th place. Nicholas Lavelle in 10th, going to be in 9th. Sean Williams in the 89, going to be in 10th place. Alex Anderson in the 67 in 11th place, with Mike Keithley in the 53, going to be in 12th. Paul Mikolajczyk in the 38 in 13th. Thomas Sewell in the 77 in 14th. Jeffrey Fisher in the 06 in 15th. James Koulibaly in the 12 and 16th. Cody Miller in the 28 and 17th. Benny Hogan in the 5 and 18th. Charles Jurek in the 76, going to be in 19th. Cody Welsh 20th, Matthew Fitz in the 21st, excuse me. Scott Shire in 22nd, Bill Harkins in 23rd, Logan Jones in 24th, and last but certainly not least, Keith Lee in the 61, rounding out the field in 25th for today's race. As we get ready and watch along here as drivers make their formation lap here and get ready to start their first green flag run here at Sebring International for the Sebring 200 for the 2022 VRL Cup Series as we patiently wait the green flag to fly. What a great view here of all of our drivers making their way around Sebring. I am just absolutely enthralled by this field, by this whole race in general. This is just going to be absolutely fantastic to watch. And I hope that everyone sticks around and hope everyone is ready for the action here today, as we are going to be approaching the final few turns momentarily. And we will see that green flag fly for the very first time here at Sebring International Raceway. And look at Aaron Smith in the 70 out in front, going to be starting this race here today. With Nick Nickerson in the 2 machine going to be on his inside. Rather, going into turn 1, he'll be on his outside, but that's neither here nor there as we work our way through the final turn Turn 17. Excuse me, that was actually turn 16 that we just worked our way out of. We are now approaching 17. And this is where the pace car will come in, and we will be green flag racing. 33 laps here that we are going to be completing here at Sebring. And with a pit window of nearly 13 to 20 laps, that is a huge, huge window of opportunity for all of our drivers here as we work our way through turn 17 now, and down the front stretch, the pace car makes its way into pit road, and we are green flag racing here at Sebring International Raceway. Lap 1 of 33 into turn 1. Look at this field. We're 3 wide in some spots. Aaron Smith doing a great job leading the pack as we work our way now into turn 2. Real spot where you got to slow down. We got carnage in the back, though. Mike Keithley looks like he's involved. Jeffrey Fisher. Oh, man. The 53 of Michael Keithley, Jeffrey Fisher, and the 06 that we're locked on with now. Throwing out the first caution, and right even before we make it into turn 2 here at Sebring International. Let's see if we can take a quick look at what happened here from the perspective of Michael Keithley, who slaps the wall quite aggressively. Let's see if we can step things back here just for a moment. Not exactly the best way to go about things, but that is how we're going to have to do it here. And going to take things just a little bit slower here, as we're going to have plenty of time to kind of nitpick this situation here and see what happens. Gets onto the grass. Oh, collides with Michael Keithley. Oh, man. Actually, no, that was not Michael. That was Jeffrey Fisher that was collected in that. And then I think, let's see here. Where is Michael in this? Well, we're locked on with him. That's why. All right, I was, okay. Anywho, so these two drivers, Michael here, just barely getting onto the grass out of turn 1. Essentially getting onto the straight, approaching turn 2, and just barely got his both of his right side tires into the grass, and that just sent that car spinning right into the wall. So the 06 here of Jeffrey Fisher back out on track in 23rd now, and man, I gotta say, not an ideal start for this race here today, and you can see the damage to the rear end of that 06. Quite extensive, and you can see just behind him Michael Keithley as well with the damage to that 53 machine. Ooh, all kinds of body work that have been done to that 53 as well as the 06 here, as this is our first caution. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I had a feeling that this was going to be a rough start for these drivers, just given knowing this track, knowing how difficult it already is in a lot of other cars, and taking a car like this and doing a race here, it's just bound to happen. It is almost guaranteed that there is going to be wrecks, there's going to be carnage, and it's just absolutely thrilling to watch. It's going to be a fun race, guys. I have a feeling on this next restart here, I don't want to jump the gun here. I don't want to make assumptions. And given that last restart, or well, not even the last restart, but given the first start of the race here, after that green flag dropped, guys are really pushing one another. Everyone is really trying to fight for spots because you have so much room on the track in certain spots that, you know, guys are going inside, outside of one another. And ultimately, that's going to lead to some bumping and grinding. You're going to get into the door of someone. Someone's going to get into the door of you, or into the bumper, whatever the case may be. And it might not even be because they're going too fast or too slow or whatever the case is. It might be because they get into the grass a little bit, like we just saw a moment ago. It might be because they overshoot their braking zone by 10 feet, 15 feet. There's 100 different ways that you could mess up your race here at Sebring, and probably another 100 that you could think of as well. So, with all of that in mind, drivers here kind of have to be considering to themselves, what can I do to stay alive? And there's a couple things. You could be a little conservative on kind of where you're placing yourself amongst the pack. You know, are you trying to fight for position? Are you trying to stay on the bumper of the guy in front of you and, again, try and push for position, or even just keep the pressure on that driver in front of you, maybe force them to make a mistake? You know, that's just one way that you could try and survive this race, but that's going to lead to a lot of problems where if the guy in front of you suddenly brakes a little bit more than they did last time, how are you going to react to that? You know, everything can change in the blink of an eye. And yeah, so we're going to see a lot of interesting racing here, a lot of ups and downs, I think, for a lot of our drivers here today. As we see a couple drivers here making their way down through pit road. Not sure if they're going to come down and get some things spotted on their cars. It looks like they might be possibly doing just that here. But interestingly enough, Aaron Smith, Nick Nickerson, and Colby Kersey, all three of those drivers, all three coming down pit road. So Aaron Smith being the leader here in this race. Kind of an interesting strategy that he decided to come in now. Not sure if he was serving a penalty or maybe got involved in a small wreck or something of that nature. He's still down in pit road here as well as Michael Keithley. So I got a couple questions there that I'm sure I will get answered here very shortly. But another thing that I would like to mention here, again, I iterated on this a little bit ago. There's roughly 13 to 20 laps for our fuel stints here today. And given that this race is only 33 laps long, it kind of bodes the question here, what are some drivers going to be doing here for pit stops? What are the strategies going to be ultimately for the race today? Are we going to see some drivers that are going to emphasize on saving fuel, or excuse me, so there's a couple different strategies that you could implement into this race to stay out longer than the rest of the field here, because you're going to have some drivers that are extremely aggressive on their tires, pushing their car a little bit harder than you might be. You might be taking it a little bit easier. So that's kind of where that big window, now that's 13 to 20 laps. That's quite an extensive window. That's 7 laps that we're kind of given here, and I'm sure that you could even extend that by, I don't want to say too much, maybe a lap or two. This is a big track, so you really kind of have to be really hitting your marks and not being terribly slow, while also not being too aggressive, if that makes any possible sense whatsoever, but I'm sure it doesn't. So anyway, as we come down I think this is out of turn 16 here, approaching the final turn 17 into the front stretch here. I got to be wondering here what these guys got to be thinking, how this next restart is going to go for these guys, and how they're going to possibly, well, there wasn't really much that anyone did wrong. The last time it was just one driver got a little bit too wide coming out of one, found himself in the grass and snapped up into the rest of the field here. But coming into this restart, interesting things here that we're possibly going to see. But we are still under caution. The pace car is still going to be out here for just a little while longer, as we just crossed the checkered line here. This will be our final lap around with the pace car in tow before we go green flag racing here once again. And yeah, you see here, this is kind of a great view of turn 1 and just how wide it is. You can see there's a lot of room that you can kind of push yourself, you know, whether you want to stay a little bit kind of more towards the inside of the turn to set yourself up for the straight, or if you want to be a little bit wider to avoid the guy on your inside, whatever the case may be. There's a million different reasons why you'd want to be in a certain part of the track. But it's really what we want to see going into 2 is that smooth, calm, steady racing. Hopefully that is what we see, and that these guys, that everyone here, everyone racing is gonna pull that off. Now I'm confident that we'll see that happen. I'm almost positive that we will see some green flag runs here, and hopefully we'll see it this next time around. I'm sure drivers have had plenty of opportunity now to communicate amongst themselves through their radio channels, their respective channels, and kind of be like, hey, what happened? Let's figure this out. Let's make this a good restart, and let's have a good race. Let's put on a good show for everyone. Everyone watching, everyone in the stands, everyone around the track here as well, as we get ready to start our next green flag run here for the Sebring 200 for the 2022 VRL Cup Series. As drivers have made their way out of 16, we're going to come into the Sunset Bend. Actually, no, I am on the wrong part of the track. You know, and that's the part about Sebring, too, that kind of gets me as a driver personally. You think you're almost done with your lap, and then it's, oh, no, it's, you know, it's a little bit further on. But I also personally don't race as much as I personally would probably like to. But I have noticed that when I have raced at Sebring that it seems a little longer than it probably should be. But it is a fun track. It is a great place to be if you have not raced there, either in sim or in real life, if you're cool enough to do that. It is a great place to race. It is a lot of fun. Some great sections that once you get it right, get the flow down, it is a lot of fun to drive around. But as we come out of the Sunset Bend, down the front stretch, the pace car comes down into pit road, and there you see the green flag as it flies, and here we go. Green flag once again, and here we go, right into turn 1. Brett Jurek, there we go, or Brett Guzik, excuse me, keep getting those names mixed up. Into turn 1. Oh, look at that, driver's wide. Oh boy, look at that, the 10 gets, the 78 also behind them. Excuse me, the 76 of Charles Jurek also getting a little wobbly there. And see, that is one of those things that I was kind of talking about, folks. It's very easy to extend your exit of 1 because of how much room there is there on the track. Let's take a look at this replay here to give you an idea of what exactly I'm talking about. So you can see here, Charles Jurek goes way wide and gets into the dirt, almost the kind of gracious area there, and that's gonna unsettle his car. It's gonna spin him right around, and a few other drivers also doing the same exact thing here as well. So very unfortunate to see here let's take a look at that one more time. I kind of want to roll on board here with Scott Shire and see from the inside of the 4 machine perspective here for just a second. Look at all these cars just trying to navigate. Scott just comes to a complete stop. He says, I don't want nothing to do with this. I want to stay all the way away from that. Very smart move from Scott, checking up, just bringing that car to almost a complete halt, and making sure that he doesn't too get himself involved in a wreck like that. So this is the second time that we've seen drivers kind of struggle with that same section of the track. Now, given how many drivers we have here present for this race, 25 by my current count, actually 24. Looks like Keith Lee did not start, did not grid for the start of the race here, so he will not be racing. But again, given how many drivers we have present here, oh, look at that. The 76, Charles Jurek, gets a little wide there. I believe that was coming out of the hairpin of turn 7. But as this is our second caution here, we're going to let drivers get themselves sorted back out, back behind the pace car, and ready to go for our next restart. It looks like we actually have our race leader currently trying to catch up to the pace car at the moment. So we are going to take a quick commercial break here, folks, and we will be right back. Stay tuned for more of the 2022 VRL Cup Series here at Sebring for the Sebring 200. My name is Mason. We will be right back for more iRacing here on Team Goon Squad. Stay tuned, folks.
Driver Carrington gets dumped by Benami. The leaders are winding up here. Daytona, the big one is out.
Welcome back, race fans, to the Sebring 200 for the 2022 VRL Cup Series. We are back, and still under caution right now. Looks like drivers still trying to catch that ever-elusive pace car. It doesn't even seem like it's anywhere in sight. I'm not sure if it's just taken them a little while, just given how large the track actually is. We could probably hop up here. Nope, that's not helpful. So, as nice as the Team Goon Squad blimp camera is, it's not always the best at giving the whole perspective of the track here. But anyway, we're going to take a look here and see how things are progressing right now, see what drivers are kind of placed at, what is going to happen on this next restart. Let's kind of speculate here and see what happens, because we've had 2 starts to this race already. Well, yes, 2 starts to this race already. In both times, we've had drivers involved in wrecks in the same spot of the track each time. So how do we mitigate this? How do you as a driver mitigate such an issue? Do you stay away from the guys? You know, and it seemed like some of these drivers were trying to do just that. They might have been trying to get themselves a little bit more room going into, or rather out of turn 1 by going a little bit wider. Trying to, again, extend that space a little bit more and stay away from everyone else. Now, it doesn't always work because obviously, as we saw, there were drivers that weren't able to find their way back onto the track successfully. They had to work their way directly through a patch of dirt and grass that ultimately unsettled the car and sent them spinning right into the rest of the field. So when you have that in mind and everyone is competing for spots right off the gate, it is going to be a tricky one. It's going to be tough to determine how these guys are going to handle this next restart. As it looks like now, it does appear that I think we have caught the pace car. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. All right, so either we have a invisible pace car or just not seeing it properly. Either way, just getting kind of a good view here of our drivers working their way now. There's Sunset Bend, turn 17, whichever you prefer to call it. What a great view here. And really, I would love to see these guys work their way through that same section of the track under green flag conditions. And here we go. Here is that opportunity, the time for drivers to shine. As James Miller in the 09 machine, going to be on the outside here of the 04, Brett Guzik. Are we going to be able to hold on to it? Here we go. Let's, oh man, we got, oh no, folks. What's going on back here? Looks like we had a couple drivers self-spin possibly. No one getting real too banged up here. We're keeping it steady, keeping it green. We're still racing. 26 laps left to go. The leader touches the sand, almost gets loose, keeps it together, stays out in front of James Miller. We got Howie Briss right behind him in that third place spot, trying to catch up to these guys, doing everything that they possibly can. Oh my, folks, here we go. This is a spot, too, that if you don't set yourself up right, oh, man, look at that right behind them. Nicholas Lavelle involved in that, it looks like, just for a little bit. We got a pack here. Sorry, folks, I'm also doing a little double duty here, trying to get rid of all the annoying bots here that we have in our wonderful chat that likes to rate us every now and then. But anyhow, back to the racing. Look at the start that we had here, folks. With 26 laps left to go, we've finally had a proper green flag run here, and it looks like it is working. Now, Brett Guzik out in first place right now in that 04, excuse me, in the 04 machine. Oh, look at that, sliding his way through the hairpin. My, oh my, folks, this is just absolutely thrilling here. But what is more thrilling, Nick Nickerson in the 2, Paul Mikolajczyk also in the 38, falling just behind for just a moment here as we ride on board with the 38 of Paul Mikolajczyk as he works his way through Sunset Bend. And out on, look at that. Oh, man, they just snap right back left as soon as they're done turn. Oh, folks, I can't emphasize enough how difficult this car is to drive on this track. I can't say it from experience personally because I've never taken this car on this track before, but I can assure you that this is putting all of our drivers through their paces here today. So, oh man, look at this. Jaden Hoop in the 81, giving the 89 of Sean Williams a run for his money. Actually, no. That was Paul Mikolajczyk that we saw out in front. We were looking at Jaden Hoop, the 85 of Cody Welsh, looking to go door to door here. Oh, folks. Here we go. Look at that. I believe, you know, I believe right now, from what we're seeing, now that drivers kind of have a chance to get themselves a little bit more time on track to... Oh, look at this, the 53 sideways, Michael Keithley. Oh, gets spun, but we stay green. The green flag's still out. We're still going to stay... Oh, man, as Michael Keithley tries to navigate his way back out onto track. And falling now into 20th. And, man, that 53 has seen some better days. As Brett Guzik in the 04 still in our lead. Currently, James Miller in the 09 machine just kind of trailing behind in second place. Trying to chip away at this gap that he is now kind of been imposed on here. And if you're looking at the ticker up above, you can see the distance between our drivers here as well. So Brett Guzik actually doing pretty well here, extending his gap to almost a second and a half right now between himself and the 09 of James Miller. So ultimately, again, consistency. This is going to be absolutely key here for all of our drivers. Hitting your marks every single time and being aware that once tire wear comes into effect, it's going to be even more of a hassle. And you can even see as well, if you're looking as these cars come by, if you look at the undercarriage, you can see how these cars are set up. The suspension there, or you can see that it is not exactly built to right here. You can see that right rear tire coming up almost a foot off the ground. So it is not exactly the best situation. Ooh, as the 4 slides it. Ooh, James Miller also has a moment there, getting a little bit wobbly as he works his way out of... Oh, man. I believe that was turn 13 that he worked his way out of. And now working his way through 15. So a lot of our drivers here have kind of started to space themselves out quite a bit here. We were trying to give you guys a good view with the track map down on your right-hand side, but it is a little bit cut off given how big this track is. Wasn't exactly expecting that, so we'll just kind of have to play it by ear here. But Jaden Hoop, as he comes out of 16 now as well, you can see the drivers behind them also having a very, very fun time as they work out of 16, approaching Sunset Bend. And this is another section of the track as well where drivers have a lot of room to work with. They can, you know, if they come in a little bit too hot, they're probably going to be okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. They're not going to end up in the wall unless they're going 150 miles an hour. You know, and break at the absolute last second, then you're probably in trouble. But this section here as well, turn 1, as well as turn 17. Oh, look at that. Right behind him, James Koulibaly having a little bit of a moment in that 12 machine right out of turn 1. And here in 3 and 4 as well. Gets a little bit into the grass, but keeps it steady, keeps it stable, and that is absolutely crucial in a race like this. If you have those moments, you want to stay on it. You want to be consistent. And here, the 67 of Alex Anderson, who we mentioned earlier with the very unique paint scheme here for today's race. Gotta love it. As he's battling right now with Nicholas Lavelle, who's right behind him in that 6th place spot. Let's actually ride on board with Nicholas for a moment and just kind of get an idea of what it's like on the inside of this 10 machine. as he is on the charge here. This here, one of my personal favorite parts of the track, of this lovely twisty, bendy part. Gotta love it. As they work their way out of turn 16, down the final stretch, the Ullman straight, excuse me. Coming into 17. Nicholas Lavelle, nope, not. Oh, look at this though. Alex Anderson, Tokyo drift into 17, and that's going to open up the door for Nicholas Lavelle to swing it around that 67 and take that 5th place spot. And it's little things like that, folks, that are going to be immensely costly in a race like this. Having those small but very significant slides like that, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt your time, it's gonna hurt your position, and it's gonna take a lot of work to make it back up again once you have lost that. So Sebring, unforgiving in that way. As we look back up here with our leaders up in front, James Miller has actually started to get some competition behind him. Howie Briss right behind him in the 97 machine. About a half a second between these two drivers right now, and Howie is absolutely mashing on that throttle. He is not exactly closing in extremely fast in reference to his gap right now to the 09, but he is so close and within that draft that if he can just stay there, I mean, he's going to push that 09, and he might even be able to make that 09 get a little bit unsteady, especially as he's pushing him through these turns here. Look at them, they're going sideways through turn 11, and they're out of 13 now here. Oh, man. Just absolutely thrilling to watch these guys. It's just every part of the track you can kind of look at and see someone getting a little bit loose, as we have this kind of two-way battle door to door. Howie Briss on the inside of the 09 of James Miller, pushes him wide. Howie stays inside as they work their way through Sunset Bend. Howie stays out just in front of the 09 of James Miller as they cross the line. Howie in second place, James Miller in third. Nick Nickerson also just barely trailing behind in fourth place in that 2 machine as we work our way through turn 1. Let's see if these guys have any of the same woes that we've seen at the beginning of this race and at that second caution as well. Oh, here we go. Turn 2, 3. This beautiful set of chicanes right here. It can, oh man, I've seen it eat drivers plenty of times. It can be very, very deceiving at times. So James Miller, Howie Briss, Nick Nickerson, all three of these drivers, very good work as they made their way. They're through turns 3 through 5 as they now come through the hairpin of turn 7. And just some great racing that we have here. 21 laps left to go, and just really an opportunity for drivers to get some racing in. And speaking of racing, Benny Hogan going to be right on the inside of the 92 of Tony Hilbrand's, able to take that 11th place spot as we work their way through the hairpin now as well. Coming out of 7 into 8. And this is a very interesting part to see here as these guys come into turn 10. And again, I've mentioned this multiple times. Look at that rear right tire as it just comes completely off the ground. It has got to feel so strange on the wheel of these drivers here. Now, I can't imagine that a lot of these guys have motion sims, if any of them at all. But that's the one thing that simulations don't really do too well of, is giving you the actual feeling of being in the car. It's very difficult, and I'm sure if you were in the car in real life, in one of these, I'm sure you would be probably wanting to change your pants afterwards. Is probably the PG response that I can make for that one. But we have some shout-outs in the chat. Cody Welsh in the 85 machine getting some love from Tanya Mitchell here, as well as Jennifer Wonders. Great to have everyone here, folks, as well. I hope everyone has been enjoying the race so far. I know that I certainly have. This has been, well, at the beginning we had some ups, we had some downs, and now with 20 laps left to go, and these guys have had really quite the impressive green flag run here. Howie Briss, James Miller in first and second, Nick Nickerson in third right now. Whew. This has been the race that I have looked forward to practically all week. Just knowing that this was going to be quite chaotic. But even as I say that, we've had some opportunities for some green flag runs here now. Well, a good green flag run here now. And I gotta say, I'm impressed with all of these drivers here working their way through this track like absolute professionals. It is truly amazing to see. You can see all of these guys sending it sideways into turns, just trying to stay as fast as possible, gain every millisecond that they possibly can to get an advantage over their opponent. Look at this. Howie Briss, great work leading these guys. Oh, man. Love to see the action here right now. Let's take a moment to ride on board with Nick Nickerson, who's kind of been trailing behind these guys in that third place spot. And just let's have a listen to the sights and sounds of Sebring International Raceway for the Sebring 200 2022 VRL Cup Series. Some great driving that we are seeing out of the two machine of Nick Nickerson. And I gotta say, folks, this has started to slowly kind of steady out for a lot of drivers here. These cars, naturally, they don't do very well once they're out of the draft. Ooh, look at this. Howie Briss gets a little bit, almost, it looks like he was completely sideways there for a moment, just up in front, as we were kind of babbling away there for just a moment. Oh man, James Miller sees the opportunity to try and get in on the inside of Howie Briss. Oh, folks, as they work their way through Tower, or excuse me, that's actually turn 15. They're coming out of 16 now, down the final stretch here before they come into 17. The 09 of James Miller staying right on the rear here. Let's watch. Let's see how these guys tackle Sunset Bend. James Miller sees the opportunity. He stays a little bit on the inside of the 97 of Howie Briss. Is he going to be able to stick it out? He is. The 2 of Nick Nickerson, he stays right behind the 09, taking that second place spot and pushing Howie Briss all the way to third. Now Howie at the tail end of this pack that has been chasing him for quite some time. here at Sebring International Raceway, or Speedway, excuse me. I was right the first time. James Miller, though, in the 09 machine, now taking the lead here once again. I gotta say, you know, this is where the uncertainty starts to come in a little bit, because as we mentioned a little bit earlier at the beginning of the race, there's roughly 13 to 20 laps that these drivers can make on fuel. Or at least, on fuel. So, with that in mind, and given, oh, look at that, the 38 of Paul Mikolajczyk just barely touched the grass and got a little unsettled there, it seemed like, for just a moment, but kept it together. He's still on track, still racing here, but yeah, so as we kind of approach this very small window for pit stops, and it's only going to be the one, if I'm not mistaken. Now, given we have had some drivers come down pit road a little early, but I think that's actually only the one driver, it seems like. Yeah, some driver came down lap 13 or 15, but those drivers are either out of the race or very far back in position. So not really a whole lot of opportunities there for those drivers necessarily. But look here, Alex Anderson in that 67. Looks like he got a little moment there out of 15. So they work their way now out of 16. Coming down into Sunset Bend, Nicholas Lavelle right behind that 67. He's looking to try and possibly make an overtake here as Sean Williams holds on to his 5th place spot in that 89 machine. Look at the 67, though. Getting wicked sideways here. Oh, man. Yeah, it seems like Alex Anderson here might be having some struggles keeping that 67 tame here today for the Sebring 200. Look at that. He is fighting that car tooth and nail. Tanya Mitchell, the 97 is loose bad. Yeah, you know, and Tanya, I gotta say, a lot of drivers here have struggled with this all race long. It has been an up and down battle for every single driver. I honestly don't think I have seen a single driver not get at least a little bit wobbly as Nick Nickerson out in front, as he kind of disappears for a second there, comes back. Oh, look, and right there, right as I was saying, you know, every single driver has been affected by this track here today. This has been up and down battles all race long. And our first driver coming down pit road here under green flag conditions, that's going to be the 22. Or excuse me, that's going to be the 28 of Cody Miller coming down here into pit road. Not sure if that's going to exactly start our pit cycles for drivers here today, but it very well could be the starting signs of it, as Charles Jurek now also works his way into pit road now as well in that 19th place spot. So as Nick Nickerson has taken the lead away from James Miller in that 09 machine, we're kind of seeing it already. These three drivers up front kind of swapping back and forth, as look at this, Nick Nickerson, James Miller, both coming down here into pit road and gonna start their pit cycles for today's race, and that's gonna hand the lead off to Howie Briss. Colby Kersey, you can see just back there in the far view of our camera there, also coming down. So a lot of drivers starting to come down here. 16 laps left to go, and again, that's going to give Howie Briss an opportunity to lead the race here for a while and possibly extend that gap from those drivers that just came down. And hopefully, if he plays his cards right, be able to maintain this lead. Now, that is easier said than done, clearly. But if Howie continues to do what he's been doing all race long, which is stay consistent, which he, at least from what I've seen, Howie has done exactly that. He's stayed consistent. He's tried to stay in this front pack for as long as he can, and given that he's stayed up here with the guys in the top 3, and here he is now in first place, you know, I don't think it's out of the picture here that Howie could very well take home a win, if not a podium. That is, a podium is most likely in the future here for Howie Brisk. Whether or not he's going to come home with a win, that's going to depend on how everyone else comes down, starts their pit cycles, and how we see both, I believe it was Nick Nickerson as well as James Miller, how these two cycle out and where they find themselves back out on the track here as well. So, a little bit of uncertainty here, a lot of tough driving here for a lot of these guys, and a tough road course is definitely one way to put it. And I touched on this. Oh, actually, here we go. Howie starting his pit cycle, and between him and actually, Nicholas Lavelle might actually take the lead here if he doesn't decide to come down pit road this time around, as he has not done so yet this race. And looks like he's going to come drive right on past. And that's going to give Nicholas Lavelle the lead here for this race. But look behind, Sean Williams, 80 in the 89 machine in that third place spot. And who's trailing just behind them? Nick Nickerson and James Miller. So both of those drivers here, look at that. James Miller down on the inside of Nick Nickerson into turn 1. Successfully makes it around him, but Nick is not done with him yet. Going into 2, who's going to come out on top here? This beautiful chicane here. This sets up a lot of great opportunities for passing. Nick stays out on top of it, though. He stays out in front of that 09 of James Miller. Holding on to that third place spot. James Miller is now going to be fighting with 2 drivers here as Sean Williams and Nick Nickerson. Look at this, 3 wide. Oh, man, very, very great work there. Coming in through the hairpin. Nick Nickerson out on top of all of that in that second place spot. Now it's going to be Sean Williams and James Miller door to door for only just a moment, though. James Miller absolutely sending it on the inside of the 89 of Sean Williams, taking that second place spot. And just like that, folks, that's going to give the lead back to Nick Nickerson. And, you know, it's tough. It's really tough to kind of predict what you are going to have to do in a race. There's always uncertainties. There's always kind of curveballs that are thrown at you that change your plan, change how things are going to go for the race. Now, some of these guys might have been very well aware. I'm sure a lot of these guys were very well aware that this was going to be a very difficult race. And so I'm sure there was probably a lot of guys that are coming in and saying, you know what, I'm just going to wing it. And there's probably some that are maybe a little bit more prepared. I don't know. We'll have to find out once we conclude the race here. With only 15 laps left to go, we are actually just over the halfway point of the race here today. We are expected to do 33 for the entirety of the race here today. So with only 14 left to go, this is things have kind of calmed down on the track. Everyone's kind of found their spot, found their place, and is ultimately just kind of fighting for whatever position is available to them. One of the points I was making on earlier, I don't think I ever got to completely finish that point, was that, oh, look at this, and here I go, getting interrupted again by the action. Tony Hilbrands gets into the 67 of Alex Anderson. We're going to stay green, though. No reason to bring out the full course caution. That wouldn't exactly make too much sense here, especially when we have a good chunk of our drivers actually in pit road anyhow. So, but being that was right out of turn 17, that is, could have been a little sketchy there. But anyway, Tony Hilbrand's in that 92 machine, doing great work there, trying to keep it together. Ooh, look at this, though, as he works his way through turns 3 through 5. And again, you can just see how wicked loose these cars are on this course, and just how much they don't want to stick to the track. They really have a hard time getting the traction down, getting the power down, and putting themselves on the track where they need to be. It definitely seems like a lot of fighting the car is happening here, and let's actually confirm that. Let's ride on board with Paul Mikolajczyk. Actually, Paul Mikolajczyk, as we're gonna ride on board with a 38 from the helmet camera, and let's just we're gonna be quiet up here in the booth and just listen to the car, watch the driver, watch his steering, and just get an idea of what it's like to try and drive the ARCA here at Sebring International Raceway. Absolutely aggressive machines here at Sebring International, and that's just one of the things that makes this race so interesting and so unique is you don't see these cars in real life come to a track like this. You don't get the opportunity to. So to come here in the sim world and put a bunch of skilled drivers together and come out to a track like this and say, hey, let's go do some crazy stuff in some ARCAs and throw them on a road course, and let's see how it goes. And well, this is kind of the result that you would probably get. And right now, we've seen a lot of great racing from all of these drivers. You can't discredit any driver here for not trying. This has been an absolutely brutal track for every single driver here, and I'm sure once we get into post-race interviews that we'll kind of have a general consensus that this was a very tough track, and I'm sure a lot of drivers will be glad once it is over. As we are looking here with Nick Nickerson as he crosses the checkered line, and that's going to bring us with 12 laps left to go here at Sebring International for the Sebring 200. And wow, folks, again, we've seen a lot of drivers kind of up and down all over the place as far as position and where they're fighting for positions on track. As Alex Anderson has been one of those drivers who has then fallen victim to a couple of those situations here in that 67 machine. In 9th place right now currently, so he's not exactly having the worst race in the world, but having been involved in a couple incidents here and there, I'm sure he probably wasn't expecting the race to go the way that it has thus far. But as we work our way through Sunset Bend, look at that. The 5 of Benny Hogan. Oh, man. Oh, that looked very sketchy there. Oh, it looked like the 5 of Benny Hogan here and that 3 of Logan Jones almost collided with one another as it looked like they were going 3 wide. It might have just been the forced perspective of the camera angle. But either way, you know, it's just giving more credit to these guys and how aggressive they're pushing these cars and how they're really trying every single avenue that they can to get an edge over their opponent. And with how difficult this track is, how difficult this car is, you know, you want to take every little piece of information that you can get. So, you know, if that's following behind the guy in front of you bumper to bumper for an entire lap, just to get an idea of how they're getting that extra tenth of a second on you in that one section, so be it. That's, you know, sometimes that's the tactic that you have to make to be able to get up into the front of the field. But as we're taking a moment here, ooh, whoa. Cody Welsh just let the 10 by of Nicholas Lavelle. I'm not sure if he just got way, way too wide. Maybe he just missed his braking point there and just wasn't set up for it. Not too sure what happened to that 85 of Cody Welsh, but fallen back quite significantly from the 10 of Nicholas Lavelle. But as we look back here with Alex Anderson, again, Alex seeming to finding himself in a lot of battles here today. Oh, man, fighting that car out of 16 down that final stretch towards Sunset Bend. The 67's got Logan Jones, who we saw a moment ago almost get involved with Benny Hogan, it seemed like, just a few seconds ago. But here we go through Sunset Bend. Logan Jones down on the inside of that 67, gets around him successfully for that 12th place spot. But Alex stays very consistent out of the exit of 17. And he's going to take that spot back. But as we come back into one, Logan Jones still on his inside. He's going to have the advantage. And there you have it. Logan Jones back around that 67 once again here. But this is whoa, Logan Jones. There, man, folks, this is the, I can't even count how many times we've seen drivers do that here. And it not just Logan Jones either. We've seen countless other drivers do that same exact thing. Just barely inch into the grass, and the car just wants to get away from you. And great work from Logan Jones, keeping the car together, keeping it steady. Oh, no! Paul Mikolajczyk not having... Oh, folks. That is going to hurt the 38 of Paul, but he able to keep it together, keeping it away from the wall here as well. No damage seemingly done. Oh, that was quite the interesting re-entry onto the track here. The 76, it looks like that was, of Charles Jurek. It almost looks like they collide. Almost looks like they were going to collide there for a second, but nothing came of it. And only 10 laps left to go here of this race, so not a whole lot of time left for drivers to make moves, really, to try and catch up to the guy in front of them, to really try and get a better finish for the end of this race here today. And right now, with drivers clicking off laps of about 2 minutes and we'll say 2 minutes 12 seconds for the drive. Oh, wow, look at that. The 76. Oh, man, gets wicked loose for just a moment there, but keeps it back together here. And look at back here as well. All right, never mind. It seemed like there was a battle there for a moment, but my timing is lying to me. So right now, drivers have definitely started to settle out on the field here. There's a lot of distance between most of our guys right now. Sean Williams in the 89, he's in 6th place currently, and between himself and Jaden Hopp, who's in 5th, there's about 3 seconds between these two drivers, and that's, you know, on a track like this, that is a tall order. You have to really capitalize on the mistakes of the guy in front of you to really try and close that. If, you know, finding the finding the spots on the track where they're a little bit slower, that takes time. And right now, drivers don't have a lot of that. They are working with 10 laps to go, and man, with how much distance has spread between these guys and the racing that we've seen already, I don't know, folks. I think this might be the way that we see it end right now, unless we see a full course caution come out, but I don't necessarily see that happening. With 9 laps left to go and with the field spread out the way it is, this is gonna go green. I have a feeling all the way until the end. And Tanya says it's not over yet. Watch the last 5 laps. And you know, I gotta agree with you. I think that, you know, especially the final lap jitters I guess is what I'll call them. It affects quite a few drivers. I've seen in the sim world. I can't exactly say that is particularly true for everyone here, but I know that it does happen and it can happen. So will we see that here today for the Sebring 200 with, we'll say, under 5 laps to go once we get there? I don't know. I do agree that there is the possibility of it, but I don't know if there's going to be a full course caution because of it. I think personally that we're going to see this go green all the way to the end, and we might see some guys get themselves back behind pit road for one reason or another. But ultimately, I think right now this is going to be how we see the race end here. As we look now with Nicholas Lavelle as he chases the 89 of Sean Williams for that 6th place spot. What a great view of drivers working their way by. Oh! Nicholas Lavelle. Oh, keep it together, Nicholas. There he goes. Back out onto track, and see, that is one of the many examples that we've seen here tonight of why this track is so tough to handle in these ARCAs. It is absolutely a challenge. That's not to say that these guys haven't done an incredible job. We've only seen 2 cautions for this race, and we've seen a lot of great racing from all of our drivers here today. And you know, right now, what I think might be happening for Nicholas Lavelle, his last pit lap was lap 19. And while we haven't been out on track very long since that point, you know, you gotta wonder how much tire wear is being affected by these drivers that are, you know, might be sliding around the track a little bit more than others, not really finding their line as comfortably, or maybe just having a little bit of struggles here and there. I gotta wonder if, you know, tire wear is going to be a really big factor coming in towards the end of this race. I'm genuinely curious if that's going to have some problems for some of our guys here tonight, but only time will tell. Ooh, look at that as he works his way through turns 4 and 5 now. Oh, man. Yeah, and just look at him snapping sideways. Yeah. Well, it's just great to see, folks. I am just absolutely loving what we're seeing here. And I hope everyone at home that is watching is enjoying what we're seeing here as well. As we're looking now with Logan Jones, as he's chasing down Tony Hilbrand's in that 92 for that 9th place spot, and he's almost there. He might be able to possibly get into the back end of this. Let's ride on board with Logan Jones for a moment here. Let's see if Logan's going to be able to make anything of it. Here he goes. He's doing a very good job of extending, or well, really shortening that break braking zone, taking full advantage of just trying to close that gap as much as he can going into the turns. And Tony also doing his exits are phenomenal. Tony is doing a great job on his exits, getting on that throttle nice and early. He may not be going into the turn as fast as some of these other guys, but he is definitely coming out of it a lot faster than some of these guys here. Look at that here as well. And you can hear as well how calm and tame that you have to be on the throttle on this course. It is phenomenal, the level of control that all of these drivers have here. So as we look at Nick Nickerson here in that 2 machine, seemingly the man to be crowned the winner as it currently stands, but anything could happen here to this 2 machine. And but right now, with only 7 laps left to go, he looks comfortable. Nothing but clean air behind him, and about 11 seconds of air between himself and the 09 of James Miller. So Nick Nickerson, is still in the lead here, still out in front, with James Miller in the 2nd place, Howie Briss in 3rd. And again, the field has spread out to the point where, really, if we want to see any of these guys kind of come back together, I mean, I really hate to say it, but we'd have to see a caution. We'd have to. There's no other way around it. It's one of those things where I was trying to touch on this earlier, that once you get spread out in these cars, it is, man, it's tough to catch back up to a driver in front of you. You have to be in the draft. You have to be kind of working together in packs to be faster. And when you start throwing in chicanes like this, it is definitely a lot harder to kind of stay in those drafts, stay in those packs. It's not as easy as when you're on an oval track. So again, drivers being spread out this much, they kind of have to think outside of the box. They have to be a little bit more creative on how they want to catch up to these guys out in front of them. Now, given how large the track is, given how much room there is on the track, there's definitely a lot of chances for mistakes to be made and for yourself as a driver to capitalize on those mistakes. So a lot of things to look out for, a lot of things to kind of keep in mind and keep in check while you're racing about here. But as the action has kind of steadied out here, and with 6 laps left to go here, folks, we are going to take a very short commercial break here. We will be right back. Stay tuned for the Sebring 200 2022 VRL Cup Series, and we will be right back.
Driver Carrington gets dumped by Benami. The leaders are winding up here. Daytona's a big win